Oh, you's gonna respect it. We gave you a track editor. Yeah. Dude, this is where I give myself a damn noogie from scratching my head so much, because I just can't understand it. Like, how do you come out with a game that has a track editor in it, and then the same company comes out with the same kind of game just 3 or 4 months later, no track editor. Literally none. Not even in sight at all. It was like it was never even in the game. It's like, how is that even possible? I don't understand. So, we obviously got the track editor in the official Monster Energy Supercross game. Sick as fuck. Thought it was like a really cool thing to try to do, because we never get a track editor in these arcade, more so like on console motocross games and stuff. I think they did actually have one back in, what was that, like Excite Bike or some shit, or Nintendo something 64 Supercross, wherever the hell that game was. I played that back in the day, by the way. That was like my very first experience with building tracks in any motocross game when I was like 3 years old and had no idea what the hell I was doing. Actually, I was probably like 5. But if any guys are wondering like where this entire Spencer Turley, track maker legacy started, it was back in the day on that, whatever that Supercross game was for Nintendo. I think it was for Nintendo. I'm pretty sure it was. Can't even remember the damn name of it, dude. But you could go on there, kind of like you do in the official Monster Energy Supercross game track editor, and you could like piece together little triples and doubles and whoop sections and build your own Supercross track. And that was my very first experience with making tracks on anything. And it's crazy because that was back when I wasn't even into real life riding. I didn't even know what I didn't even actually really know what a real dirt bike was like. That was like way before I ever rode. I didn't even start riding till I was like 14. That was back when I was like 5, when I was making custom Supercross tracks on a Nintendo video game. And here I am after, actually racing in real life for 5 or 6 years after, or even, hell, it's probably been like 7 years since I've been racing and doing all that. But I started when I was 14, and here I am, made all these custom tracks for MX Simulator, done all that stuff, made a big deal, YouTube with the custom tracks, and it's like, that is insane that I look back and realize like I was doing this when I was like 5 years old and didn't even realize it. It's just crazy sometimes, man. The world is crazy for sure. So, but yeah, the official Monster Energy Supercross game, that was the first real custom track editor we've had in a console motocross game in a long ass time. Even though, yes, I thought it could have used obviously a lot more stuff to it, it was pretty good for a console custom track editor. I mean, you can only do so much with that. It's not like a PC custom track editor. PC custom track editor, you can do whatever the hell you want with that. You can literally put like anything on it. You can put aliens on it. You can put your own alien models. You could make anything, your own rain effect on the track. You do anything, build any kind of terrain, straight up and down terrain, down a crazy hill, make a water slide, any kind of design you want to make, you can do it. Any sort of decal design, any sort of biome you could possibly imagine in your mind, dimension, space track, any kind of track. I was one of the biggest people that really pioneered and pushed that whole, like, make a crazy ass track that you never thought would be in a motocross game, right? That's kind of what I've been all about. So, and you can't really do that with a console track editor, so you miss a lot of that creativity element of it. You're kind of restricted to whatever sort of little biomes or stadiums or whatever they put in the game. But here we are with MXGP Pro, and there's no track editor. None. That's not in the game at all. So, milestone, whatever your next game is, by God, you better have a track editor. That's all I'm saying. Because people don't think we just looked at that like, oh, well, shit, maybe they just put all their time into these pro physics, so we'll just let them have that. Like, no. Every single one of us, except your diehard, can never see anything negative about your game fanboys, we were all thinking, like, why is there not a track editor in this? I mean, seriously, that's what I was thinking. If you weren't thinking that, I don't know what the hell you're thinking, because, I mean, shit, they just had it in the game before this. Now, yes, you can make the argument of it's way harder to put a track editor into a motocross game than it is a supercross game, because at least with a supercross game, it's kind of like restricted to a stadium, and you're kind of restricted to supercross pieces and stuff like that. So you can make a little bit of that argument, but at the same time, it would not be that hard to put like 2-3 different, like, imagine this track right here, but perfectly flat, and you like take all the people, all the objects out. You make the dirt perfectly flat, kind of like, you know, picturing it like the editor in the stadium mode in the Official Monster Energy Supercross game. You just make like a flat one of these tracks with some sort of biome off in the distance, whether it be like these pine trees or whatever kind of biome you're trying to make off in the distance. And hell, you could just make it to where you basically flatten out all of the MXGP different biomes that you put in there for your MXGP tracks, flatten that out, and then just put like more so motocross pieces in there. And that goes into the whole thing about, like, you might as well, if you're going to have a track editor in the motocross game, you might as well just put the supercross pieces in there and the motocross pieces in there. So then we could make our own supercross tracks in the next Milestone motocross only game, and make our own custom motocross tracks, you know, put more actual motocross pieces, like bigger tabletops, you know, bigger berm corner pieces, somehow make more of a like bump, more like a bump rut style piece of some sort. You can make that work. You know, like a pre-made berm rut style, bigger, wider corners than you would have like in your custom pieces for the Official Monster Energy Supercross game. More tabletop-y, big jump, uphill, make it to where you can somehow do elevation. I don't know how you do that, but you'd have to have that somehow. Or you could just have like where your standard pre-made blank track had a little bit of elevation on it, and you could somehow build upon that. Be really cool if you could manage to do that somehow. Wouldn't have to be like a full-blown top-down 3D editor or anything. Still be the object placing system, but just allow us to do more motocross style tracks and motocross tabletops, big roller sections, crap like that, right? That would be the ticket right there, dude. Like I'm saying, you can not only have that, but then have your supercross pieces in there. So even if you come out with a motocross only game like MXGP Pro, you get all your people in there to make their own supercross tracks on that, and then it would expand into hybrid tracks and straight rhythm tracks and square rhythm tracks, and then that's how that expandment happens with track editors in games. If you have it restricted to where you can only make one kind of track, it really eliminates a lot of that. Like, I was actually fairly impressed with the Official Monster Energy Supercross games' ability on their track editor to actually make somewhat of a kind of like a motocross track, not 100%, but kind of. You could go in there and like make roughness with the small whoops, and you can make like longer sections because they actually put quite a decent size. The biggest stadium in that track editor is fairly decently sized, so you could actually go in there and make somewhat longer sections and sweeper corners, and so you could kind of like make a motocross track in a humongous supercross stadium. So that's kind of the thing. If they could just carry all that over to a motocross game of some sort and really make actual motocross tracks, put a lot more customization pieces in there and that kind of jazz, then you'd have it going on as far as the track editing portion of it. But either way, man, that's about it. Just want to get in here and talk about this. Like, yeah, I bash on Milestone all the time, but it's just like, it's inexcusable. It really is. Like, a lot of people, they get so pissed, think I'm just like this ungrateful dude, just like, you know, always mad at Milestone, can't ever please me, can't be happy with it. And yes, you can say, hell, there's just about no other motocross game out there that has a track editor in it, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is, like, if Milestone's really wanting to push their stuff ahead of everybody else, if they're really wanting to get ahead of the wave of everybody else, if they're really wanting to get above the MX versus ATV series, and they only put one kind of tracks in their games, like they either only have Supercross or they only have motocross like they've been doing, but then they go in there and have a track editor where you can make whatever the hell you want to, then it's like now that's becoming more of an even playing field with the MX versus ATV game that goes in there and gives you all kinds of tracks. Motocross, Supercross, trails, all that kind of stuff, but there's no track editor, see? So that's really what it comes down to. And then it's like, well, then you need a full-blown track editor into one of these motocross games if you ever want them to compete with the PC version of Reflex or MX Simulator. Then that turns into like a whole nother conversation. But if you're just talking about like a console where it works on the console and the PC version or whatever, you know, having that like standard, the Official Monster Energy Supercross game track editor, I think it's cool to have it to where it can work on a console, but obviously it's super limited. It'd be cool if they had it to where it was like they had a console version that was limited, but then they had a PC version that was like a full-blown editor. I think it's a big deal for these motocross games to start putting, at least in the PC version, an editor, a track editor of some sort. They're going to have to do that if they ever really want to get the mass majority of arcade motocross gaming fans to their game and just staying on their game like they did with Reflex for so many years and like they do with MX Simulator. They're going to have to put a decent track editor in there of some sort on PC version, right? So either way, man, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.